I'm delighted that Abigail Yardimci, you can say it in a minute, is joining me on this call. I, I I don't quite know how we first met. I think it was on some sort of social media platform, and
Yeah,
then I read your book, Life is Yours. That's
yeah, the first one.
the first book in your trilogy, which is absolutely lovely. And then I read your latest book, Murder at the Pirate Festival, which I became actually quite obsessed with, and I really want to go to the Pirate Festival.
You
And
must
then,
come, you must come.
yeah, you'll have to let me know when it is. And then you're in a real minority of authors I know who I've actually met.
Yeah, isn't that nice that we get to do that sometimes?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
amazing. So it was a couple of weeks ago, was it? We met up
Yeah.
in beautiful Brixham, which I'd also never been to. So yeah, it's lovely to speak to you again. If I pass over to you and if you like to introduce yourself and maybe say how you came to write some books.
Oh, thanks, Laura. Thanks so much for having us today. It is really nice that I've already met you in person, isn't it? Because then it makes the whole screen thing just a bit
Yeah.
more palatable and just nice. But yeah, so we've had our coffee overlooking the sea at Brixham, which is really lovely. I think we met on TikTok. I think that's what it was. I
Oh,
think I saw your videos and I was like, this sounds really geeky, but I really like her and I really think we get on. So I just reached out and it went from there, which was really nice. So yeah, and we kind of obviously we're both in the same kind of indie author community. So I've written 5 books, and the first one, like you said, is called Life is Yours. Do you mind if I flash them at the screen? Because it feels like
please do.
it's nice to have a visual, isn't it? So um, these are the first 5 books, and they're like all uplifting, sorry, 4 books, and these are like uplifting contemporary fiction with a little bit of romance, but they're not like fully romance. And they tell the story of one woman called Jess who goes through heartbreak in the very first book, like that kind of heartbreak that really pulls you apart and makes you wonder how you'll ever kind of continue. And it's about her story and how she kind of recovers and all the amazing things she discovers about herself and life and carries through her story till she becomes a mum, which is quite exciting. So that's the first 4 books. And then also I've written, as you said, Murder at the Pirate Festival, which is my first cosy mystery. And it's the start of a new series called the Berryport Mysteries. And I've always wanted to write a murder mystery. So this is kind of like been a bit of an ambition of mine. So yeah, I would say I'm an author of uplifting fiction and murder mystery. And I think I came to write. I like a lot of people. Like when I was little, I loved writing. When I was a little girl, and I used to like write up. If I saw a movie, I'd rush home and write it up, like from start to finish. It was bizarre. And my mum and dad were both journalists, so writing was always in the family in some way. But then, like when you're older, I think when you become, because I did study creative writing at uni, but when I kind of went into so-called professional life, I kind of let go of it. Like a lot of people do let go of their
Mm.
passions a little bit whilst they're building a career. And it wasn't until some years later that I kind of had like Jess in the Life Is Yours series, I had a huge breakup of a relationship and kind of went back to basics and tried to figure out what I wanted. And I just kept getting called to writing. So I picked it back up very bravely and just ran with it.
That's
And here I
brilliant.
am.
It's so easy to get distracted, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you're just embarking on like adult life, and there's all these things you've got to get your head around, and you've got to actually earn money, and almost all that creative stuff. You lose the space disappears that you
Mm.
once had to do it. It's amazing you got back into it. Did it help? Like if you were going through all that with the breakup and things, was the writing therapeutic?
Well, it definitely was. Because the Life Is Yours series is kind of roughly based on my own lived experience of heartbreak. So I think, I mean, without telling the whole story, because it is a bit of a story that I ramble on about, but I had like a really crazy year in 2006. Like we always, like all of us have had times in our life where you go, that year or that time in my life was like, what was going on? And you remember it and you remember all the emotions and everything. And it was 2006 for me. And that was the year I had the break, like a big breakup. And it was towards the end of that year, I'd already had this kind of almost like an epiphany of like, oh my God, I need to write. That's the thing I need to do. Like that was after loads of kind of soul searching and stuff. And I remember talking to a friend of mine because I'd sat down, I had a writing desk and I'd put fairy lights up and I had like nice inspirational quotes everywhere. And I was like, I'm going to write a book. And funnily enough, I thought I was going to write a murder mystery.
Oh,
Yeah, really, really weird. I had these ideas for a murder mystery and I sat down to write and it just didn't come. And I tried and tried for weeks and weeks, and I was like, why can't I write this thing that I know I have to do it in my heart? So why is it not happening? And I sat down with a friend one night over a bottle of wine and told him all about it. And he just basically went, hang on a minute, hang on. Like, you're telling me you've had the year you've had and you don't know what to write about. He was like, it's obvious what you've got to write about. So then it became really therapeutic because I started writing like something that was based on my story. And so yeah, then it was like, oh, okay, I need to do this. This is quite cathartic.
Yeah.
Which you
Did
can.
you anticipate it growing into 4 books?
No, definitely not. No, I thought it was one book. As I started writing it and like got quite a few months into it, it was becoming a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. So over time, I started thinking, oh, maybe this is more than one book and maybe I could split it. And it naturally was split into 3 parts, the story
Okay.
of Jess and what happens to Jess. So yeah, over time, I'm talking years, over years, I built it up so that it became 3 books. But originally I didn't really
Mm.
set out to do that.
Imagine if you could have looked forward and seen it
Oh.
like
Well, do you know what? I'm quite an impatient person, and if I'd looked forward, I probably would have been quite frustrated with myself because it took me years. It took me
oh
years to get to the point where I like published them. So it took me 10 years, I think. Yeah, 10 years. Because I had babies. You know what
yeah,
it's like.
they get
Every
in the way, don't they? We love them really. And
we
what's
love
your
them.
experience been of being a published author? Like, is there anything that surprised you about it? Was it your dream to be published, or did you just have like that desire to write?
I think I had first and foremost the desire to write, but because my background, like that career we were talking about earlier that kind of pulls you away, was in community arts. So I was really lucky in that my career was creative. Um, so I think like I knew that from all my interactions with creativity and working in communities with different people and helping them to discover their own creative selves, I knew that it was one thing to create the work, whether it's a book or whatever it is. It's another thing to share it. And like so it's almost like a two-stage thing. So I knew that at the end of creating it, there would be some form of sharing, whether that was proper publishing or whatever it would be. So I knew that would, for me, it would have to be part of it because I'd then want like the kind of the beautiful interaction that comes once you've put your story out there. I mean, it's so special. And I suppose when you asked if there's something that surprised me, like some of the interactions I've had with readers have just been awesome, like
Mm.
really, really lovely. So I wouldn't have, yeah. So even though I wasn't like, oh, I want to be published, it wasn't like that, but it was very much, I know that that's part of this dream.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
part of the process, isn't it? I suppose with any kind of art, it's unusual to make some form of art and not share it with people.
And not have somebody who participates somehow. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I knew that was part of it and I was excited about that part of it, but it's scary as well, isn't it?
Oh,
Publishing books.
absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, it really, there's a fear of God in it. I don't know why I keep doing it.
And you're right when you say it's like two completely different things, because you write this book and it's the creative part of you, and it's all like, well, I say it's magical, it's also incredibly like annoying at times, but
Oh, yeah.
it's the creative part of your brain doing it, and then it's like, oh, so now I have to think about this whole other side, which is publishing, and it's
Yeah.
quite a balance to do that.
I think you have to be so tenacious. Like,
Mm.
I've surprised myself at how committed I am to this. Like, when I say that I had like an epiphany type thing, I don't mean that lightly. It really did feel like that. Like in 2006, I was literally on a mountain in Turkey watching a sunrise and had this like whoosh of recognition of like, I have to write now. Like, come on, Abby, you've already, it was almost like remembering it rather than realizing it. It was like, you've always known this, you've ignored it for too long. Like, and it was like a physical thing. And so I think that's what's carried me through all those really tricky bits where you're learning all the new skills in like formatting and publishing and marketing and everything else that comes with publishing a book. I mean, when I first was published, I had a traditional publisher, so I didn't
Mm.
do any of that. That was passed to
Okay.
them. But so my first 2 books were published like that, but I didn't get along with that process very well. It didn't sit well with me and my character, and I didn't know that until I did it. You know,
Yeah.
you couldn't know really. But now I'm independently published. I got the rights back to those books and I've published all of them myself now. And even though, like you say, there's all these different hoops you have to jump through and skills you have to learn, I, that epiphany moment somehow, like I sometimes think back to it and it carries us through because I'm like, no, you know in your body that you need to do this. So like just keep going.
And that sense of achievement almost, it's like you've not just written this thing, but you've also done, and I think most people don't know, you wouldn't know, I didn't know before I wrote
Mm,
a book, the stages it then has to go through. Like writing, it's hard enough, but then you've got all these other things. So when you've actually got, when you're holding those books and you've done everything from start to
yeah.
finish, that's an incredible achievement.
Oh yeah, it really is. And it's that thing of like, I'm really proud of myself, but also like try not to sit in that for too long because I don't want to rest on my laurels. I want to keep going.
Mm.
Get
I
on
do.
with the
One
project.
thing I think about your books is I think you have the best or the most like beautiful covers of books. Is it like, do you have you, are they been the same since you were originally first published with the publisher? Or did you have approach, like did you approach someone and have a hand in that?
When they were first published by the publisher, they were actually really great and asked me what I wanted. So I told them what I wanted and they just did it. But the problem with that, Laura, was that I was not very experienced in the publishing world, and those covers were pretty rubbish, to be honest. And I feel like almost like that publisher should have recognized that and told me, no,
Mm.
actually, this is what we need. We need something more genre specific or whatever they thought. But they didn't. They kind of gave me that autonomy, which sounds great, but at the same time, no, because it didn't work. The
Mm.
covers weren't very good. So when I got my rights back and I republished the books, I found a cover designer who I absolutely loved. This was the Life Is Yours one. So you've got like Jess on every one. So that's the first book. And then she's on the edge of like a swimming pool or something in Destiny Is Yours. And then Everything Is Yours. She's sitting there. She's got yellow roses, which are significant in this book. And then in the last one, which is like the sequel, My Little Ramadan, because it's set in Scotland, it's got kind of like heathery colours and Scottish Moor colours, and there's Jess as a mum. So Bailey, who designed these covers, is amazing. Is amazing, and she reads the whole book from start to finish, so she
Wow.
really understands it before she designs the covers. But Murder at the Pirate Festival was mostly me. That was me just having a go. But I
Really?
did, yeah. I mean, well, I got an artist who I liked on Fiverr to do a pistol because I had a real idea. I wanted the pistol on the front, the pirate one and the ship. But then I put it all together and decided on the color scheme and stuff. So it worked once. I don't know if I'm going to be lucky enough for it to work for the next one. We'll see.
You're quite artistic, aren't you? Aren't you an artist as well as writing?
Yeah, well, when I have time, I love to paint. So like that's one of my paintings behind me. And I've always been quite into graphics and visuals and just always been quite excited by it. So like designing a book cover, it's I'm quite up for giving it a go, but I'm also trying to be like respectful of the fact that I'm not a cover designer and I don't actually really understand it as an art form. So trying to get like the help where I can.
I think you've done a brilliant job with that one. I
Mm.
I did quite a few in the early days. I did my own covers, and some were more successful than others, and the ones that weren't successful have been redone.
Yeah, and it's good to like not be too proud about that and just do it, just make the changes if we need to. Like I was glad I changed the first two covers because they were nowhere near as good as the ones that I've got now.
Mm, they're beautiful. So I've completely strayed off the questions I was going to ask you, but let me have a look. So I know what I was going to ask is, have there been any reactions to your books that have surprised you? How readers have responded to what you've
Yeah,
written?
I've been quite like surprised by the power of some of the responses, like how much people care about the characters is really cool. I really love that. I mean, I've got one reader who has kind of become a friend now, and this is the lovely thing that happens online that enables it, like you kind of become friends with your readers, which is so nice. But one of my readers, she started a hashtag of be more Jess. So Jess is the main character in the first books, and she like related to Jess so much that she did this whenever she did a lovely little sharing push, she put hashtag be more Jess on everything, which was
That's
lovely.
amazing.
I know. I mean, I'd never would have expected that. But then when she read this one, where Jess becomes a mum, and there's some themes, even though my books are uplifting, there's some themes of postnatal depression in this book.
Right.
And she really, really related to that. And when she read it, she changed the hashtag to I am Jess. And I was like, oh my God. Whew.
Gosh.
It's just taking it to like another level. So that's like the power of the way people relate to the characters, as I couldn't have imagined that. And then there was one that really stands out in my mind. So Jess keeps a journal some of the time in her story, where just to help her process some of the things that are happening to her. And there was one guy, and bearing in mind that you might call my books women's fiction. I don't really like gender-based genres, but people might call it that. And so I love it when a guy says, "Oh, I really loved your books." It's like, yeah, get in. And he messaged me not just to tell me that he loved the books, but with like photographs of his own journal and how he'd taken literally some of Jess's exercises that she does in there and done them himself and like kind of planned. It was a bit of kind of life coaching, but through a book, I guess. But I never imagined anyone would do that. So, and he was really talking about how it had changed things for him, so that was nice, because it's fiction and it's not meant to be like instructive,
Yeah.
but people take what they take, don't they, from a book.
Yeah.
And the lovely thing about this one is Paulie, the main character in Murder at the Pirate Festival, she's 17 years old and she has ADHD. And I've had such lovely responses from people about the ADHD themes in the book, and that means a lot because I worked really hard. I wanted it to be really authentic and illustrative of some of the challenges that somebody might face with ADHD. And yeah, some of the comments and feedback and reviews I've had about how people feel seen, they feel like they recognize themselves in Paulie, and like that's just, oh, it's so lovely. So that's really blown me away, and I love it when stuff like that happens.
I thought she was a brilliant main character. I loved the fact that because she was the one kind of figuring it all out,
Mm.
wasn't she?
Mm-hmm.
But and I didn't know very much about ADHD, even though I've been a teacher and I've taught plenty of children with diagnoses, but it was,
Yeah.
yeah, I found it really eye-opening, and it made me understand it much more, almost seeing things through her eyes. But she's still, you didn't feel sorry for her in the sense that she was still a very cool, girl going around solving a murder. Yeah.
Yeah, she's dead cool. And I think with fiction, it's a really difficult, tricky line. Like you don't want the reader to feel like they're being dictated to, like, this is what you must learn about this
Yeah.
thing. Because that's just gonna, anything that takes you away from the story is just gonna make you close the book. So I really wanted to hit that line of like still having a really compelling story and a believable character and a relatable character. But also, yeah, is I think it's great if you can learn something through stories. Like I love to learn through stories.
That's kind
So
of the whole point,
yeah.
isn't it? I've been thinking like,
Yeah,
what is the point of reading? What's the point of books? And all these big kind
it's
of
good.
new year thinking about all these big questions. And it is about that's you learn through stories, and that's why
Yeah,
humans tell stories, isn't it? To
absolutely.
pass pass wisdom down through generations. I
Yeah.
learn tons from what I read.
Yeah, and like stories like fairy tales used to have morals to them, didn't they? Or like fables.
Yeah.
They'd literally be they would be lessons.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we've always learned from stories, like you say, but it is something I'm very conscious of when I'm writing. If there's anything I want to get across, to do it like gently and story and character first, and
Yeah.
anything else comes with it is a bonus.
And how have people locally responded to because the Pirate Festival is in Brixham, isn't it, where you live?
Yeah.
So how have locals like responded to the book? Are they quite like, are they excited that something has been written in
Yeah,
their town?
I think so. I mean, I think if people who live in Brixham are quite proud of where they live, and it's quite a unique place. Like obviously I'm not from Devon originally, probably tell from the Geordie Shore accent, but yeah, I think people from Brixham are so proud of it, and it's because not only is it a beautiful kind of touristy, seasidey kind of town, but it's a real salt of the earth grassroots working town. It's a
Mm.
fisherman's town, it's a harbour town. So it's got lots of things going for it, and people are really proud either to live here, or you get a lot of people who come on holiday again and again and again, and they're really proud to be holidaymakers in Brixham. So I did get lots of lovely reactions. And I think when I had the idea for the book, do you mind if I just share how I had
Oh,
the idea?
please do. No, do, yeah.
You can tell me if I'm going on too much.
No, because that was one of my questions that I've skipped over. So please do.
Okay. Well, it just helps set the scene, I suppose. So what we in 2025 now. So not last year, but the year before. So 2023, Brixham Pirate Festival was happening. It happens on May Bank Holiday weekend over 3 days, and the whole town gets taken over. And there's pirates everywhere you look. You know, everybody's dressed up, properly dressed up as well. Or there's mermaids, or there's octopuses, or like anything marine related. And there's obviously like stalls and activities and live music happening all through the town all day, and it's all free. It's amazing. And one of the things they do as part of the activities is they have like a cannon thing, and they set off this cannon, and they have it like scheduled in the timetable so that people know like, oh, when there's a big bang, like the world isn't ending, it is literally just the cannon going off. So my kids have always found that bit quite overwhelming because it's really, really loud. So I was walking through the back streets of Brixham with my youngest son, Azad, and we were just like we'd just been in town, we're just kind of coming down of how busy it was, and just in this lovely quiet back street. And then we just heard this massive boom, and it was obviously the cannon going off, and like literally the ground shakes, and it rattles off the sky like this sound. It's amazing. And we kind of stopped in our tracks, and we waited for the next one, and there was like three bangs, I think, and you kind of feel it in your heart. It's so loud. And I just kind of got struck by this idea, and I just said to Azad, oh my God, it's so loud. Wouldn't it be amazing if like that would be the time to get away with murder? Like when that bang was happening, you could shoot someone and nobody would ever know. And Azad looked at me, and he's a really good little buddy for like bouncing ideas off. He's always been good at that. And he just went, yeah, that would be good. And he'd probably get away with it, at least for a while. And then I was like, oh my God, have we just had the idea for my next book? And I literally got like goosebumps and could not shake this idea for weeks, and just started tentatively talking to people about it in Brixham. And every time I said murder at the Pirate Festival, their eyes would just light up. And I was like, I can't not write this now. I'm gonna have to bloody do it. So I think right from the inception, people were like, oh yeah, I'm on board. What I love about it is that the title to local people around here, it just means something straight away because everybody knows about the Pirate Festival. So,
Yeah.
you
See, I thought it was made up. I didn't know. So when I read it, I was like, this would be such a cool thing to happen. And then found out from you it actually does happen. I was like, oh
yeah.
my gosh.
They happen all over, apparently. There's one in Weymouth, like in different places, and I should go to some others really and compare and contrast. But yeah, everyone kind of down here knows, like in this area, knows about it. So the title draws them in very quickly, and I'm just really lucky that I had the idea really, and nobody had done it. I couldn't believe no one had done it yet.
Yeah. So what are your plans then? Are you going to are you going to have more in a series or more books set in Brixham? Because it's such a, I was just, when I came and met you, I had
Yeah,
no idea it would be so beautiful. But
yeah,
what you said about being a working town, that also came through. And that gives quite an incredible setting for a book where you've
mm,
got that real, kind of gritty everyday
yes,
next to this
yes.
incredibly beautiful seaside, you know. So do
Yeah,
you
there's
think you'd set
loads.
more books there? What are your writing
I
plans?
will, I will definitely. So I don't call it Brixham in the book because I just wanted a little bit of artistic license to play with, to like
Yeah.
geographically shift some things around and stuff. So it's called Berryport, and well, I've called it Berryport Mystery Book One. So there's obviously going to be some more,
That's a good
and there will.
hint.
Yeah, it's a good hint, but I really kind of laid me on bed there, haven't I? So there will be more books in Berryport. But Berryport, like Brixham, is set in a bay of other towns. So it might be that Paulie kind of, goes on adventures in other towns nearby as well. So I definitely have loads of ideas for more books in the Berryport Mysteries. So the next one I write, I think, I'm not sure, is going to be Murder at the Tattoo Parlor, I think. So there could be some pirate connections there as well, actually. But also the Life is Yours series, I started working on a book actually during lockdown, but I didn't think it was a book then, but now I think it is. And I was calling it Lockdown Love Letters. And it's going to sound really weird, right? But just go with it. just humor me, right? So you know how lockdown was so hard for us all,
Mm.
and I wanted to do some writing, but I didn't know where to start. So I started writing notes of gratitude to random objects. So like a cup of tea, like, oh, a cup of tea. Thank you so much for warming my hands and like calming me down after the kids' tantrum last night. And so the story of what my lockdown was like would come out in this gratitude note to the cup of tea. Or I'd write a gratitude note to the vase of flowers on my windowsill, or I'd write it to the Netflix show that I watched that evening, or so just writing these letters, and then I realised, oh, it's quite a Jess thing to do that. So like Jess in the books, she would do something like that. So I think I'm going to adapt the lockdown love letters into the next Life is Yours book. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. It'd be brilliant that it's used somehow.
Yeah.
I really regret not writing anything during. Well, I wrote in between the lockdowns, but I found in the lockdowns I just couldn't. My
What's that?
brain completely switched off,
Yeah.
and I wish I'd kept a journal or something because I think it's those records that people look back on.
Historic time. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it
but
was
that's
hard, and we probably did feel quite stunted creatively because we were just kind of trying to manage through life, weren't we? And
and homeschool.
homeschool. Yeah, who would want to go back there? Not me. And actually, I have. It was almost like a conscious decision not to develop lockdown love letters too soon because I thought nobody is going to want to read about that time.
Mm,
Yet I'll have to wait a little while till it feels a bit more nostalgic.
yeah.
It's quite raw for quite a long time. So that'll come at some point.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there's lots kind of in the background.
Well, I'm sure you're the same. Like I've got so many ideas. I've got
Mm.
lots of ideas for standalone novels. Just need more time in the day
Yeah,
to write them. But
it's
I'll
so
get.
hard. All these ideas, and I was just like, oh, you can only do one. I've tried doing more than one at a time, but it's never overly successful.
Don't think I could do that. Yeah, that's amazing to write. I think when I'm writing a book, everything about me is just in it. Like all my energies are. Like I go
Mm.
to sleep thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. I go for a walk. I'm thinking about it. It's quite intense.
It's an obsession. I find it's almost like I feel bad. I'm be having a conversation with someone in my family, but actually I'm thinking about someone fictional and I'm never completely present. And I think that's why I write quite quickly because it's quite a difficult state to be in for any length of
Yeah,
time.
you can't keep it going forever.
No.
No, it's not sustainable. And I'll actually prep my family when I start writing a book. I say, right, I'm starting on Monday. It's probably going to last like a year. Like, can you just give me some leeway? Like, it won't be like this forever. But yeah, it must be hard for those people around us, I think, sometimes.
I think they need so much. They need plenty of gratitude because I just think if my family didn't give me the space and time because it's
Mm,
quite it's selfish in the sense although you're producing something for other people when you're in the middle of writing a book it's quite a self-centered
yeah.
process. You're in your own head, you're in your own space,
Mhm.
and if the people around you weren't understanding of that it would be impossible.
I think they have to be accepting of it. Like, I'm not sure my lot are understanding because how could they possibly
Yeah.
actually understand it? Because it is my process that I do very internally, and even if I try and describe it out loud, you I don't think anyone else can understand it unless they're a writer and have a similar process. I just need them to accept it and let me get on with it.
That's such a good way of looking at it.
Yeah,
I think that's
yeah.
very true,
It's
and
not
that's
always.
why it's like I found like being able to come and meet up with you and being able to do things like this. I think if you were like to if I when I was a teacher, if I met someone else who was a teacher, I'd be like, oh, that's cool, that's quite interesting. But I think there's such an isolation to being a writer, and
Yeah.
people around you they can see you doing it, but they don't really know what you're doing. So when you can meet other writers, it's like,
Yeah,
oh, we're not alone.
absolutely. And I think it's quite glamorized. Like a lot of my friends, like,
Yeah.
oh, how are you getting on with the book? And I'm like, I'm absolutely knackered. I was up till 3 this morning, and they can't get that because why should they? But meeting yourself and meeting other authors who get that part of it, like they get the magic bit that you spoke about earlier, but also like the grind as well, and how committed you have to be, and how exhausting it is, and
Mm.
that age-old question of like, why do I keep doing this to myself? But we'll still keep doing it.
Over and over and over.
Mhm.
Brilliant. Well, shall I move on to the quick fire questions?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay, I'm gonna have to read these because there's no way I can remember.
Go for
So,
it. I'll try and be quick fire. I can't promise because I have to think.
hopefully they're not too tricky.
Okay.
Okay, do you prefer typing or writing with pen and paper?
Typing.
Me too, although I do both sometimes. Do you prefer, sorry, I shouldn't interrupt. This is meant to be quick fire.
No, do let's chat about it. Let's do it.
Do you prefer tea, coffee, or something else while you're writing?
Depends on mood, but probably tea.
Mm.
Chai tea with a little bit like cinnamon in it.
Ooh,
Yeah.
fancy tea.
Paperbacks.
Do you prefer ebooks, paperbacks, or audio? Mm. What is your favorite place to write?
Probably bed.
Mm,
It's not very professional.
I'm the same. And now I've expanded to a pub. So it's
Oh
either a
gosh,
bed or pub.
what is your place of work? Bed or pub? I love it.
Okay. What is your favorite writing snack?
Oh, probably biscuits, probably custard creams.
Mm, my
Yeah,
son's a bit obsessed with custard creams.
they're the best.
What is your favorite genre to read?
Probably thrillers,
Mm.
which I don't write. Maybe that's why, but I just love a book that's like you can't put it down, like you have to just keep going. So
Yeah,
yeah, thrillers.
I'm with you on that. I like crime fiction. I don't write crime fiction, but there's something about just getting completely engrossed. Um,
Yeah.
who is your favorite book character?
Oh, well, again, it probably depends what mood I'm in, but today I think I would say, have you read Chocolat by Joanne Harris?
No.
But you maybe seen the movie, it had Johnny Depp in it, and oh my God, I can't even remember her name, but it would be her. Vianne, she's called in the book, Vianne.
Oh, okay.
She's like a little bit witchy and she makes all this amazing chocolate and she kind of beguiles people with the chocolate. So I
I'll
just
have to
love
read it.
I've read that book so many times. Yeah.
Well, that may answer the next question, or it might not. What is your favorite book?
Yeah. I mean, that's just an impossible question. Don't you think? Like I can't. I've read a few books lots and lots of times. Um, I mean, in the Life is Yours series, I talk about a book called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho,
Oh,
which is a novel, short novel,
I've
but
read
it's a very,
that.
yeah, very powerful book. And I read
Mm.
that at a time in my life when it was just absolutely the right timing. So probably I would say that, but if because that's like a standard one that I always just have in my head. But if it wasn't The Alchemist, it would maybe be The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. He writes beautiful, really, really powerful stories set in Afghanistan and just yeah, really moving.
That's another one I haven't read, but I've seen
It's brilliant.
lots of people saying how good it is. So I
Yeah, it's wonderful.
have to do it. Okay, who would be your ideal fictional dinner party guest?
That's such a good question. Um, because like first of all, I thought Dumbledore from Harry Potter.
Ooh,
Like,
yeah,
how cool would that be?
yeah.
Just to get him to do tricks. But oh, can I have Jamie from Outlander?
Oh, yeah. You can have whoever you want.
I'll
I
have
can't
Jamie.
make it happen, but
Thanks, Stu. Is that not the deal?
okay. Last one. What is your current read?
Oh, I'm reading The Giant on the Skyline by Clover Stroud.
Hmm,
Have you heard of that one?
no.
It's quite new and it's all about it's not fiction actually. It's about Clover's experience of she's got this kind of blended family, older kids and younger kids, and her husband has to work away and he's working in America more and more and more, but they live in Oxfordshire, I think, like in the countryside. And she loves it. She feels very, very tied to it. But this reality is setting in that they're probably going to need to move to America for his work. And it's all about, yeah, how does she let go of those kind of bonds with her landscape and the place that she's brought the children up. And yeah, it's beautiful, beautifully written. So yeah, I'm reading that.
I think I've now got at least three books to add to my list after
Sorry.
this. Okay, so finally, where if people would like to come and find more about you or your books, where should they look?
Okay, so I have a website. and it's just abigailyardimci.com. I'm guessing you'll put it in the notes because it's
I'll
not
put
easy to
I'll
spell.
write it down in the notes. Yeah. Yeah.
So that you can get everything from my website. But if you're on socials, I am on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X. Yeah, and LinkedIn a little bit.
Ooh.
I'm trying to kind of get my head around that. But yeah, across socials is a good place. And the good thing though on my website that I should notice is that there is a chance to sign up to my newsletter, which is totally non-spammy. I do not spam people. It's just a little love note from me every so often. And you get the digital copy of Life is Yours for free if you sign up. So
Perfect.
it's quite nice, you get to dip in and try the books, see if you like them, and also get to hear all my bookish news and gossip as well.
I'm on your mailing list and I can confirm it's not spammy and it is interesting. But I forgot I'd signed up so I forgot about the free book and I ended up getting a copy. And then I was
Oh,
like, I'm sure
you could have had it for free.
never mind.
Oh, thank you very much for your purchase.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's the first one.
Oh, I'm
So
so honoured. Thank you for
yeah,
asking.
it's been brilliant. So thank you. And I'll make sure I put all your links and everything down
Oh,
in the
thanks, Laura.
thing below.